Well, didn't really want to be doing this, especially after the stunning finale of Loki, the high that I was on following that incredibly executed MCU project, one of the best that Marvel has done post-Endgame. But alas, here I am. Every now and then, a movie comes out that's so bad, but has such a strong fan base that no matter how you try to critique it, someone is going to put your face on a dartboard. I mean, it hasn't happened in a while, but also...
Somehow Palpatine returned.
The problem here is I really, truly want to root for this character, for all three of these characters. I would love to see a Captain Marvel movie blow me away, and the rest of the world away, so the basement-dwelling, women-hating cinema neckbeards can find something else to hate, and more importantly, so I don't get looped in with them when I find myself not enjoying one of Marvel's only movies with a female lead. For starters, I think it's safe to say that Phase 4 and 5 of Marvel's grand plan have been some of the weakest yet. So while it would have been nice to see this movie rise above the rest, I can't say that I was surprised when it failed to fly higher, further, or faster. While I could use this video to rant about how frankly disrespectful it feels to the fans that Disney knows most people who are in this deep with the franchise will come back to see just about anything and they're fine with giving us the bare minimum, I think it would be a more constructive use of my time and yours to instead cover some of the ideas this movie attempted to explore and talk about what the movie could have looked like if it had stuck to one through line and nailed it. But first, this video is sponsored by Aura. If you're tired of constantly receiving spam phone calls to the point where you don't even answer your phone anymore, like I do, Aura can help to alleviate that stress. Look, data brokers are determined to make a fortune selling your information to robocallers, spammers, and others who want to learn more about you. Aura can identify data brokers exposing your info and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Not many people realize that brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask them to, but they're really good at making that process way harder than it should be. So let Aura handle it for you. Aura also does so much more to protect you and your family from online threats you can't see. While Captain Marvel can protect Earth from threats we never saw coming, Aura does the same job for you online. It's so easy to set up, so you don't have to download several different apps to get things like parental controls, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft insurance, and more. You get everything at one affordable price. Let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online so you can focus on other tasks with peace of mind, like keeping up to date on every Marvel project that comes out. At the end of the day, you can either let people continue to exploit and profit off of your private information, or you can go to aura.com/filmspeak to start your 2-week free trial, which you can also find linked below in the description. Once again, thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring this video. What do you get when you combine an ex-soldier for 2 different armies, a whiff of an arrogant I know best personality, and all the powers of a nuclear bomb that can travel through space? Well, at the very least, you get the potential for some really heavy-hitting symbolism. Carol Danvers, or at least the version of her that has been created for the MCU, is all of these things. And from what we find out in barely descriptive flashbacks is that after the events of the first movie, she's also become somewhat of a war criminal after discovering who she is, but not completely, but sort of, but not all of it. I don't really know. I thought we remedied this identity crisis in the first movie. Anyways, Carol takes off to destroy the artificial intelligence that has led the Kree in their crusade of conquering the galaxy for quite some time. The only problem is not only does she do this without batting an eye, she doesn't for a second stop to think about how destroying the institution that runs the entirety of an empire might also affect the innocent civilians living within it. Carol's actions do technically put an end to Kree advancement, and it can absolutely be argued that in doing so she saved many Skrull lives, but by essentially nuking the Kree and subsequently dipping without a single word, she also caused the suffering of most likely billions of civilians that never had a choice in the matter. Now, none of this is anything that I have a problem with. In fact, I think it's a really strong jumping off point for this movie that could have led to some seriously interesting arcs. Putting Carol in this position at the beginning of the film opens it to the possibility of a movie that's masked in superhero frosting to make it more digestible for the general public. And while it may have been a bit on the nose to do such a story with Captain America, Captain Marvel is removed enough from US representation that a story about American policing the world, foreign intervention without labeling it as such, could have really hit hard here. Along with this, the Marvels already has a built-in villain who is born from the mistakes of its headlining hero. Dar-Benn had the potential to be an incredibly relatable villain with a hard-to-argue-with mission, much like Zemo in Civil War. Zemo's mission, while a brutal one, comes with intensely personal purpose, and that drive makes him the only villain, well, I guess you can technically include Thanos at the end of Infinity War, but he gets defeated. You know, regardless, Zemo's like the only one who really kind of made a difference, but regardless, he's the only villain in MCU history to successfully defeat the Avengers. Having witnessed basically a foreign bombing run or drone strike that not only destroyed the Kree's culture, but also led to the suffering of billions of its people, Dar-Benn rose to power under a unifying campaign. The Annihilator, as Carol is known as, must pay for her actions. This mission rightfully resonates with the Kree population because to them, the only thing they know is that some overpowered foreigner destroyed their entire culture and set in motion events that would slowly kill their planet. Now, it can be argued that the Kree did this to themselves in the Civil Wars following the destruction of the Supreme Intelligence, but when you fly into a foreign land, eviscerate the government in charge, and then leave the people there to not only fend for themselves, but also to just figure it out, you can't expect that a civilization that has until this point been run by an AI would be able to find a productive path forward on their own. But let's get back to that villain. At this point, you're probably asking yourself, wait, who the hell is Dar-Benn? And yeah, I was asking myself the same question because I couldn't remember her name the entire time I was watching this film. In fact, as I was writing notes for this video, I kept just having to say villain. I couldn't remember the character's name because she's such a nothing character. She's not remarkable. She's so forgettable. She has no personality or motivations outside of revenge and restore. And it's a shame because, again, I see the potential there. I see her being someone who's been scorned by the militant actions of Carol Danvers. There's the possibility for something great that they just kind of blow through because the film doesn't seem to care about that part of the film, about Carol's past actions. And the Marvels is predicated on that whole idea. It just, oh man. And I don't blame Zawe Ashton for this. It's not her fault. She's a great actress. She has nothing compelling to work off of. And that's why, sadly, Dar-Benn in the years to come will likely join the ranks of Malekith from Thor the Dark World, or Ronan the Accuser from Guardians of the Galaxy, or, I mean, shit, even Caecilius from Doctor Strange. Is some of the worst, blandest, just nothing villains in the entire MCU. Since this movie was intended to be, and technically is, an ensemble movie, it's only right that we cover its other headlining heroes, starting with possibly this movie's brightest spot, Kamala Khan. Miss Marvel represents, in my opinion, most of the good things the Marvels tried to incorporate, from a stunning intro montage stylistically presented in an animated comic book to where the movie leaves her character by the end. Kamala seems to be the only character the writers had a good grasp on going into this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no issue with seeing a lighthearted side of Captain Marvel. After all, it was this about-face in Ragnarok that solidified Thor as a much more likable character, but Carol's pivot in this movie no longer feels like the character, or at least the one that's been built so far in the MCU. But then again, how would I know, because she's such a poorly defined and underutilized character to begin with. Kamala's fangirl excitement is consistent from series to cinema. In fact, it feels like one of the few things in this movie that is translated well between projects. However, Kamala's unrequited love for her hero gives writers an opportunity to do something really powerful here, and that's well, to let her down. It's all fun and games until the character who's been nothing but a ball of sunshine and jokes and joy until this point in the movie all of a sudden gets serious. This opportunity could have taught her that it's better to be her own hero than to live in the shadow of another. And still, there needs to be something more here to push Kamala to the place she ends up in the final scene of this movie. In most regards, Miss Marvel's life rocks right now. So what does that leave us with as a possible domino to topple in order to get her to the teen Nick Fury position she takes on by the end of the movie? Well, there's her role model, and the whole reason she wanted to become a hero in the first place. Continuing the list of swings and misses this movie takes, the Marvels had the potential to have a heartbreaking, civilization-ending moment that could have rivaled Vulcan being destroyed in Star Trek '09. Following along with the storyline of Carol intervening where she really shouldn't be, she ruins the chances for a potential peace treaty between the remaining Skrull and the crumbling Kree Empire. While the Marvels does give us a bit of a heavy-hitting disaster scene where we not only see potentially thousands of Skrulls die, but also Kamala's reaction to Carol's attitude toward the situation, the follow-up on this event is minimal at best. This conflict could have been divisive not only as a way of showing Carol that she needs to be a better role model, but also as a driving force that leads Kamala to seek out a new team, a younger team with a brighter outlook and intentions of being better heroes than their predecessors. Instead, she just forms the Young Avengers because I guess we need another team-up movie. And being part of a team was fun, I guess. I'm not saying that the relationship here between these two Marvels needs to be damaged beyond repair, but it creates a real and relatable sense of drama that allows these characters to open up as people and therefore allow us, the audience, to relate, empathize, sympathize, and become more invested. It's okay to have fun with these heroes palling around, cracking jokes, but you know what really sticks? Heart. When they're allowed to feel like fully realized three-dimensional people. The Guardians of the Galaxy are allowed to rag on each other and make jokes at each other's expense because we've seen them bicker and fight as well. They're a well-rounded group with their own pain and joy, so when these personalities meet, they feel real. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not, but breaking and taking down walls takes time. And when you use a wrecking ball to demolish those already flimsy walls with a single scene of sudden resolution, it feels unearned. These are the types of interpersonal relationships that the MCU has been depriving us of, at least for the most part, post-Endgame, and it's going to have long-term repercussions on the universe if it continues to happen. Or not happen. You get what I'm saying. These instant gratifications don't do anything for new characters, and they give us less to look forward to in future movies. While we're still focused on Kamala, I do feel the urge to at least discuss the involvement of her family in the plot of this movie. No one is arguing that the Khans aren't fun to watch. I love them. They're charming, at times hilarious, and they add a lot of heart to Kamala's story. However, the Fury Flurkin Khans storyline subplot is, well, it's something. It's essentially useless. The only reason I feel like they were included in the movie was for gratuitous cameos, needless jokes, and to make a thin plot slightly longer. Also because I guess they assumed that everyone likes the Khans in Ms. Marvel, so we gotta give them extra screen time here to keep people invested. It feels like an attempt was being made at including some James Gunn-esque space shenanigans, but it's Gunn light at best. By far, the character who is railroaded the most by this movie's struggle to figure out what it would like to do with itself is Monica Rambeau. Out of the three members of this newly formed team, she's the only one to not go into it with a solo project preceding it. And while we know who the character is both from Captain Marvel and WandaVision, the audience hasn't had a chance to get to know her intimately. The movie would have been that chance, and you guessed it, it wasn't. I like Monica as a character, I think she's fine, and Teyonah Parris does an excellent job of playing her, but she was so shafted in the substance department for this film that, just like Dar-Benn, it feels like she could be removed from the script and not much would have changed. She really doesn't have much of an arc beyond being the exposition tool. Yeah, she's dealing with the abandonment issues of losing her mother and Carol, who was like a mother figure to her, promised to come back only not to, but that dilemma is almost instantly resolved. Like, if this was such a deep-seated thing that was causing Monica so much pain in her life and was the crux of the drama between her and Carol, why would the filmmakers not spend more time on this? Like, yeah, I think it's a tired trope that feels forced in there for the sake of drama, but at least if you're going to do it, and let us feel the character's struggle. Okay, Carol felt unworthy of returning home until she completed her mission. She's stubborn, one-track minded, works alone, and clearly doesn't see how that's affecting other people, which is like her whole arc in the film, if you can even call it an arc. It's just weird that Monica sort of gives up on her frustration with Carol in that moment. And then after that, what is Monica's arc? Because I couldn't tell you. What is she going through? She winds up sacrificing herself at the end and not coming home, which is the exact same thing she was mad at Carol for doing, because I guess we needed to link the Fox universe into all of this. That's really it. Is the film trying to say that Carol made a mess and left it up to Monica to pick up the pieces? Does Monica have this realization that maybe Carol was right? The whole climax makes no fucking sense. The character choices, the buildup, it just, what is going on here? Also, it's really weird that the entire conflict was remedied because she violated Monica's mind and had her see that she was there for her mom during her cancer and then claimed that she didn't mean to do it, almost invalidating her trauma. Oof. Cool, justify your shitty actions, Carol, but that doesn't mean Monica is invalid for feeling alone. And I guess that guilts her into forgiving her and then sacrificing herself so Carol can no longer be alone. Again, if the film was more deliberate with what it was trying to say, I wouldn't be sitting here forced to draw weird conclusions that only make Carol look worse and then Monica as a sacrificial lamb. Was the point that Monica now knew what was in her mom's heart and realized her mom would have wanted her to be a hero and save everything? I don't know. That's an optimistic look at it, but you really have to fill in the blanks to get there. Now, granted, Monica isn't dead with the whole punching a hole in the space-time thing, so I'm sure there will be a much-needed reunion down the line, but like, again, why? There's like no stakes in these things anymore. Monica's sacrifice means nothing because we know that she's just gonna wind up in another universe and we're still gonna see her. There's no finality, there's no sense of danger, there's no real weight to all of this because nothing matters in this universe. People will just get resurrected and it's just bad. Marvel is obsessed with keeping us on the hook by throwing together characters and storylines just to keep us coming back, which brings us to Monica's post-credit scene. I really want them to let the Fox X-Men universe, whatever, die. Let it go. Let's rebuild the X-Men from the ground up. We all love these characters. They're great. They offer so much depth, and they're the most iconic Marvel characters outside of Spider-Man. I just don't understand why we need to keep going back to the only version of them ever to exist. We can create new Wolverines, new Beasts, new Storms. Like, I thought the point of bringing the mutants, of bringing the X-Men into the Marvel Cinematic Universe was to give us a new interpretation, to give us a new version, not just carry over all the baggage from that previous universe. And yeah, you can say, oh, but they're different versions of these characters. It doesn't matter. Just let the Fox X-Men universe die. Let's start fresh, start new, and build new iterations of these characters for future generations instead of just playing into the nostalgia of it all. It's so exhausting, it's so predictable, and it does nothing to get me excited about future Marvel projects, to get me excited about the concept of mutants and X-Men in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is what we all want to see. The Marvels barely furthers the Marvel Universe, other than setting up even more plot lines that we may not see come to fruition, and if we do, it may be years from now. This movie flirts with so many interesting concepts that could have pushed each character further, realizing you might not know better than others, understanding that your heroes aren't always all they're cracked up to be, and forgiving the past to move on with your future. All of these concepts would have been wonderful to explore, but unfortunately, there's just not enough time. This movie feels like the finale of a season of television that we never got, and perhaps a series would have given each of these characters the time they needed to fully explore each of their individual issues in order to pursue what could have been some truly amazing bonds. The Marvels is the last Marvel project of the year, and perhaps that's for the best. With fans feeling not only overloaded with Marvel homework to keep up with and let down for taking the time to do so, only to be rewarded with flimsy plots that ultimately never had to happen, maybe this break is a much-needed opportunity for Marvel to step back and ask itself, as a business, is this really the product we want to sell? It's disgusting that I have to talk about film and art as this, but Marvel, if you're making a product, at least make it a good one. With powerhouse performers such as Brie Larson that give a sturdy base to any movie, and fresh new faces like Iman Vellani and Tiana Paris, whose excitement and energy keep a saga like the MCU fresh and exhilarating, Marvel has plenty of tools at its disposal to continue building on additions for the already beautiful house they created in the Infinity Saga. They're treading dangerous terrain currently, and if they're not careful, the legacy they've worked so hard to build could come crashing down. And I hope the next time I talk about Captain Marvel, I won't be talking about everything it could have been, but instead everything it was and why it did it so well.